This is exactly how you're going to charge for brand deals as an influencer, as a content creator in 2025, how much money to charge, how to go about your rates, and like what to tell brands your rates are. Because if we're being honest, figuring out how much money to charge as a content creator is one of the hardest parts when it comes to content creation, being an influencer, making money from this. I want this video to feel like we're out for coffee. I'm like lowering my voice. I'm like, okay, here's exactly how much to charge. Here's what my friends are charging. Here's what I charge. I have pulled some of my friends' brand deal rates who I know in real life in downtown Toronto with hundreds of thousands of followers. I've pulled my old rates of what I actually made as a content creator. I've also worked on both sides of brand deals, influencer marketing. I worked at a beauty brand doing influencer marketing, looking at media kits, hiring influencers. So I've done that. I've also been a full-time content creator myself, working with brands for over 2 years, full time after my 9 to 5. In my first year working on my own, working with brands, it made around $80,000 Canadian just from brand deals on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. I feel like it's just so nice to have a number, a baseline of what other people are charging so you can navigate it as well and like really get into your business mode as a content creator. And this is a safe space over at Busy Blooming. Talk about content creation, influencer marketing, brand deals, all of it. I could talk about brand deals forever. So I'm so excited to get into it and let's unpack how much to charge for brand deals in 2025. Before we get into the video, I need to tell you about Honeybook. This video was sponsored by Honeybook. They are the perfect sponsor for today's video. They are the leading client-centered CRM for content creators and entrepreneurs, and truly the must-have tool for content creators and entrepreneurs who want to level up their business. If you're managing brand deals like we're talking about today, managing invoices, sending emails, or just trying to keep your head above water while managing all of this as a content creator, as an entrepreneur, Honeybook is actually your new best friend. Seriously, I'm obsessed with them. I'm going to tell you why. Honeybook just isn't any CRM. It's basically your personal assistant for all things admin. From sending contracts and proposals to managing invoices and scheduling, everything is in one place and automated, which means less time on the boring stuff and more time on the fun things like creating content, building your brand. And let me tell you, every proposal and invoice that you send a brand looks so professional and so good. Honeybook really has your back in making you look like the polished business owner that you are, even if you feel like you're in total chaos all the time. And the most exciting part is that Honeybook's January Jumpstart giveaway is live right now. This is so amazing. When you start your free trial, you'll be entered to win a $10,000 prize package full of tools, resources, and training to help you crush it in 2025. Just imagine what that could do for your content creation business and brand. So click the link in the description and start your free trial and let Honeybook handle the business side while you focus on creating content. And don't miss your shot at $10,000 because 2025 is your year. And thank you so much to Honeybook for sponsoring this video. They are the perfect sponsor for today. You have to go check them out. I'll link everything down below and let's get into the video. Okay, so this is my personal approach of how I personally manage my brand deals as a content creator, my system, my process. I know that a lot of people do this process that I know as content creators as well, but there are so many opinions and ways to approach brand deals and negotiation and rates and all of it. So this is my process. Feel free to pick and choose, take a little bit, leave a little bit, create your own process, but this is just a baseline example of what you could do and like what I personally do, honestly. So let's break it down step by step. So let's just say a brand reaches out to you and they say, hey, we'd love to work with you on a campaign. How much do you charge for a TikTok or for an Instagram or for a YouTube video? And you're thinking, I actually have no idea, because everything you've probably Googled online seems really low or really different than what you thought. I actually pulled an article, not to totally call Shopify out, like love you so much Shopify, but they wrote an article about 2025 influencer rates. Let me read you a few of these rates. They said on Instagram, if you have 500 to 10,000 followers, to charge $10 to $100 per post. If you have 10,000 followers, they're saying $100. On TikTok, they're saying if you have 1,000 to 10,000 to charge $5 to $25 per post. $5. They're saying on TikTok, mid-tier influencers with 100,000 followers to do $125. I will get into what people with around 150,000 followers on TikTok do charge because I have a baseline rate that I've heard from a lot of people. This is why charging for brand deals is so confusing and so overwhelming because every single thing you read online is different. So let's go through everything step by step. So a brand reaches out to you and they say, we want to work with you. What are your rates? In my opinion, my experience, I would keep the email, the first initial email from your response. So simple, so peaceful. All I would say is thank you so much for reaching out. I'd love to learn more about working together. I've attached my media kit and my rates. Please let me know if you have any questions. That's exactly word for word what I would personally say. I know people give the advice, I might have even given this advice a few years ago as well, of asking for a brand's budget, like in your first email back saying, what's your budget? After having a couple more years under my belt, I actually think that is bad advice. The reason I wouldn't ask for the budget of the campaign is because influencer marketing managers are probably not going to tell you what the budget actually is. So if they respond back, the number is probably lower than what their max actually is. And it actually makes you look as a creator like your rates aren't as solid because you can up them or lower them depending on the budget. So you seem a little bit less confident in your rates. So in my opinion, I would just respond back with what I said, attach my media kit, and leave it there. So your media kit, let's talk about that because that is where your rates live. Your media kit, your rate card, same thing. So in your media kit, I have a whole video unpacking like what to put in it, but the first page is pretty much about you, past brand deal examples, all of that. Do people actually read that? Probably not. If a brand has already reached out to you, they already want to work with you, they already know about you, your content, everything. And if they want demographics or more information about your audience, where they live, their ages, your reach, your views, all of that, they will just ask you for screenshots anyways. I do that all the time, but I do still think it's good to have the first page of your media kit be a little bit about you. I have a whole video on that. But today we're talking about the second page, which is your rate card. So in my opinion, and this is how I approach rates, I have two types of rates, and this works really well. First, you have your base rates, and your base rate is what you charge for a TikTok, an Instagram reel, an Instagram story, a YouTube integration. Your base rate is your rate for the content. So those are your base rates. We're going to talk about in a second, like how much that should be. And then you have your add-ons. So their add-ons are whitelisting and boosting, paid usage, all the same thing. Organic usage, ownership rights, same thing. Exclusivity, which is when you can't work with another brand. And then link in bio. That is what I would do as my add-ons. So you have two types of rates, your base rates and then your add-ons. If you're thinking, okay, what are all those things that you just said? I have a post on Instagram that goes through each one, but super quick. Paid usage, whitelisting, boosting, that's all the same thing. That is when a brand pays to boost your content as an ad or whitelist it on TikTok, on Instagram. Sometimes brands will argue that you're getting like so much exposure and it's such a good thing for you. It's actually more beneficial for them, so charge for that. Organic usage or usage rights is when the brand can use your content on their Instagram, on their website. They're not boosting it as a paid ad or sponsored post. They're really just using it organically in their own marketing and social media. And then exclusivity is when a brand says you cannot work with other skincare brands or other tech companies. They need to give you a list of who exactly that is, but you're potentially missing out on other brand deals for a certain amount of time. So you need to charge for that as well. And then link in bio is just putting the link in your bio or in your link tree. So all of that you need to charge for as well. So you have your base rate for the content and then your add-ons. Okay, so now into the good stuff. How much money do you need to charge? So what I find is the most helpful that I have found as a content creator and people I work with is really hearing what other people are charging to give you some sort of baseline of like, okay, if they have a similar follower count to me and we create similar content, I could probably charge a similar amount to that. So I'm going to run through a few things that I've heard in real life from my own personal experience, creators I know, and then we're going to talk about figuring out your exact rate. So what I have found with creators that I know is when you have around 100,000 to 150,000 followers on TikTok specifically, people do charge around $4,000 US for a TikTok video. In 2023, when I had 20,000 followers on TikTok, I charged and worked with brands for around $1,200 for a TikTok. I did a Business Insider article in like 2022. I have never received more hate in my life than when I post about it on TikTok. When I had 10,000 followers on TikTok, I charged $500. When I had 5,000 followers on Instagram, I charged $350 for an Instagram reel. I actually did some research and pulled some other content creators who have shown their rates online. I'm not going to call them out, their exact name. This creator with 100,000 followers charges $2,000 for an Instagram reel. So these are real life rates of what creators are actually charging right now. And I don't know if these rates are lower or higher than you're thinking, but I feel like it's just helpful to have a specific baseline. In my opinion, if you have under 10,000 followers, like 2,000, 3,000, you should not be charging less than $200 or $250 for a piece of content. Brands get so much value from working with with content creators, they spend so much money on photo shoots and models, advertisement, all of it. And working with a content creator at $200 for a marketing budget, even for small businesses, you get so much more return on investment as a brand working with an influencer than working with other types of marketing. Influencer marketing is such a powerful tool, especially as a small creator. So many studies have been done that influencers that have less than 10,000 followers actually have a stronger ROI than bigger creators potentially, because your audience is more tight-knit, they trust you more, so you still are providing a lot of value even if you don't have a ton of followers. And something else that is so important to remember if you're having a bit of imposter syndrome of, okay, but what if my content doesn't perform that well or doesn't get many views? What do I do then? Brands almost always want usage rights or boosting rights. They usually want the rights to your content to post. So it doesn't actually even matter all the time unless you are solely just doing a brand deal, posting on your channel, that's it. They don't want any usage. They don't want any whitelisting boosting. That is the only time your views and engagement actually matters. But most of the time, especially as a smaller creator, brands want to work with you in a UGC style brand deal sometimes, where you're creating content to post on yours and to post on theirs, or to just post on theirs, which is a sole UGC deal. But regardless, though, there's some baseline rates that I think might help you get some thought starters. What's really tricky about brand deal rates is people with different startups, different platforms, different opinions in influencer marketing, people try to make it seem like there is a standard rate or some sort of baseline. I know there are tools out there that people do put their rates out there, but the reason why there will never be a baseline or standard rate is because every single creator provides a different amount of value. For example, every creator has a different quality of content. If you have really, really, really high quality content, you can charge more. Or if you have a really specific niche down audience, you providing more value as a creator than somebody who has a more generic audience. Every creator is different in their quality, in the topics, in their brand. So that's why there's no baseline or standard rate ever. So now that we have a good baseline of, okay, here's what other people are charging, here's the different types of rates, here's exactly how I would approach it as a content creator. So let's start with your base rate of how much you charge for TikTok, Instagram Reel, etc. At the end of the day, your rate does not matter. It just needs to be higher than the brand's budget. It is very, very similar to negotiating your salary. Throwback to my old content when I always used to talk about corporate, but negotiating a brand deal rate is very similar to negotiating your salary. The base rates that are in your media kit need to be higher than what you actually think they should be, because you want the brand to come back and negotiate with you. So let's say you're a content creator on TikTok with 10,000 followers and you have an Instagram account with 10,000 followers. You actually can charge more on Instagram and on YouTube versus TikTok. That's something that's a very common approach in the industry, is that people charge a little bit less for TikTok. And I'm not telling you what your exact rate should be, but let's say you have 10,000 on TikTok. I would make my base rate $1,000 for a TikTok. I definitely used to undercharge, and looking at these rates from 2022, I'm these are so low. But again, at the end of the day, your rate does not matter, because if your rate is $1,000 for a TikTok and a brand working with you only has a budget of $500, their budget is $500. So whether your rate is $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, it doesn't really matter, because they still only have a max budget to give you. So you do $1,000 for a TikTok, then let's say you have $10,000 on Instagram, your rate could be $1,500 for a reel. Again, this is not the amount of money you're probably going to actually charge, because you want the brand to come back and negotiate with you. So that is how I would approach setting my base rates, is to make them higher than you think, and you should be a little bit uncomfy setting your rates. This just takes trial and error. Aim super high, higher than you think. If you think it should be a little bit, add 50%. And if a brand comes back to you and they say, great, let's do it, your rate could have been higher, a brand should be negotiating with you back and forth. And then for my add-ons, how I would charge those is I would do between 50 to the 100% full rate per 30 days. So exclusivity, usage rights, paid usage rights, I would do half of your rate or up to 100% of your rate per month. You can have an extra rate for link in bio if you'd like. I used to do $75 per day. Sometimes having a link in bio rate is a good thing to have as a content creator, as a negotiation tactic, because you could just throw it in. If brands have a max budget, you're okay, I could just throw in the link in bio, kind of seeming like you're negotiating a little bit, just a little tip. So let's go through an example again of walking through the process of a brand deal. So a brand reaches out and they say, hey, we'd love to work with you. What are your rates? You respond back, super simple email, attach your media kit. That's it. Your rates in your media kit are really high, higher than you think they should be. They respond back and say, thank you so much. We're interested in a TikTok, paid usage for 30 days. This is our max budget we can offer. Like, what do you think about this offer? And then you can go back and forth a little bit. Maybe they offer you $2,000. You respond and say, okay, could we do $3,000? You kind of go back and forth and finally decide on a number. Where a lot of creators miss out on income is they don't charge for things like usage right or exclusivity. They just throw that in. So really make sure to read your contract and determine all of that. But that is overall how I would approach brand deals, how much to charge, a few baselines thrown in there from myself in the past and other content creators that I know. I feel like it's so helpful to know what other people are charging, and people just don't talk about it. It's very secretive. And I do get why it's people's income, their salary, their job, which is a very private thing a lot of the time. But I really hope this video was helpful in terms of rates and charging and money, of how much to charge and how to approach the different types of rates as a content creator. Again, if you have any questions below, please comment down below. I really want to help you build your brand, build your business, build your vision on social media. And I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Again, make sure to go check out Honeybook. They're so amazing at building your brand, building your business. Everything we're talking about today, Honeybook can help you so much organize your finances and your business. They're the perfect sponsor for today's video. So go check them out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.